Hi, everybody. Dave Clark from InspectCheck-net. Um, Today, I want to talk about flue pipes, but not flue pipes from a furnace, even though I guess it would apply depending on what we're using to heat the house. It's not like a standalone furnace in the basement or something like that, even though a lot of this may apply. But I really want to talk about space heaters in the house or wall furnaces, um, stoves, wood stoves, of course, freestanding fireplaces, things like that. Not a huge fan myself of space heaters, but they're out there, and we have to take a look at them if that's the heating source for the house. I always try to recommend that they, get a central system if possible. But anyway, so I want to talk about not only the flue pipe. I think everybody knows about the flue pipe, the pitch it should be. It should be B vent if it goes in certain areas, or even triple wall. It could be single wall if it's in certain areas. But I want to talk about the penetration of that flue pipe through the living space, right? So let's just take the scenario of either a space heater or a wood burning stove standalone in a family room, whatever, and that pipe comes out. A lot of times you want to leave that pipe open, not open. You want to leave that pipe to be a single wall pipe, I should say. You never want to leave that pipe open, but a single wall pipe, and then it goes through the wall or through the ceiling. And what we call is what should be installed is a through the wall thimble or through the ceiling thimble. We don't always see that, right? So I want to show you some pictures. Of course, we want to make sure that it's supported, all that stuff. And we talk about clearance to combustibles. I'm going to talk about that too. But let me share my screen with you. And let's take a look at the first one that got me thinking about this. So this was at a recent inspection, and here it is. It's a wall heater, and those get pretty hot, right? There's a wall heater, and we can see that appears to be a chimney behind there. We talk about clearance to combustibles. I mean, this is just plywood. You just got a few inches. This just goes right in. I'm not sure what this is, some muck that they put there, but this pipe gets very hot. It's a single wall pipe, I believe, even and I touched it when the space heater was on. It gets hot. To me, again, look at how close it is in here. I did call that out. Again, not a big fan of wall heaters anyway, but we're going to definitely make a note about that, the clearance to combustibles. The other thing is, if this were not a chimney and just going through a wall, what would that look like? So let me give you a couple more examples here. And what we want to see, this is not, here's another, here's even a better example. All right, so we take a look here and make this a little bit bigger for you and move it over. Okay, so here we go. This is a flue pipe going through a ceiling, a popcorn ceiling. I'm not sure, what that's all about, but that is not a through the wall thimble, right? So you've got hot, you got heat around here. We're going to call that all day long. Okay, not the proper way to do that. I don't know what's behind there, and that's the other issue. Even if you do see a through the wall thimble, you may not see what's going on. All right, so let's take a look at some more clearance issues. Here's another one. You can see it pretty good. This is a space heater, single wall, and then transitioning to a different type of single wall, more of a galvanized, like a stainless to a galvanized. However, this appears to be a through the wall thimble, and I believe that there's a chimney on the other side of that. Okay, so we're going to take a deeper look at that. But what about the clearances? This is very close to the wall. You can see it starts there and it gets very close to this molding. Literally, you're walking under it. You're probably not going to hit your head on it. I'm definitely not, but don't like that at all. This whole unit should be moved over to here if that's what we're going to use. Okay, so the pitch here, there is a pitch, but it's very slight. Long run, don't like it. Call this one out too. It needs to be moved or a central system put in. Not a fan, right? We see fires with these all the time, so not a fan of that. So what should we be looking for? In other words, what should a through the wall thimble? And again, we're not going to know what's inside that wall, but I'm going to try to help you a little bit. So this is what it looks like. This happens to be tile, which is even better because this is all, you know, non-combustible all around here. I love that. Right, short run. The unit is right below here, coming right out, and then this is our through the wall thimble. Okay, got to have that. This pipe can't just go into the wall like the one you saw before that. Okay, I mean, I think you don't even need to be a home inspector to understand that, but it's pretty obvious that that's a problem. All right, so let me bring you over to this one. It's another good example. Okay, again, through the wall thimble. Although this is combustible material here, you know, the manufacturer will tell us how big that thimble needs to be for that unit. Always read the manufacturer's instructions. I have some here for you, a great rule of thumb that you can go by. But of course, the pipe needs to be properly supported. And then, you know, we'll talk about clearance to combustible. So that's very important, right? That this through the wall thimble is there if you're looking at these units. I think I see that all the time, that there's an issue with that. Okay, so now I want to just bring you over to here and let's take a look at this. I love this graphic. Make it a little bit bigger for you. So here's this. These are basically the same ones. One is going through the ceiling, one's going through the wall. This one's going direct vent right through. And they're all pretty much the same. You've got your, you know, pipe section, then you've got your thimble. Let me go with I'll go with red. Then you have your thimble wall cover. That's what we just saw in those last two pictures. And then a two-piece wall thimble, right? One goes on each side, so there won't be a gap. These will come together in the wall. Okay, and then this is going to go outside. Same thing here. Here's our ceiling, our two-piece section. Again, are we going to be able to see this outside? I hope so. So we make sure that's there, and then there's a proper termination height here. Same thing here, and we'll see these and these, right? We'll see that outside looks like a large dryer vent, and we'll say hot on it. Again, that cap, if you look at that, that should not just come straight out, right? That should have a cover, and it will say hot on the outside. Okay, there's our two-piece thimble going to the wall that we're not going to see during a home inspection, but we would see this, and we would see this. So hopefully, if we see those and we see the one side of this and possibly the other, depending on how that looks on the outside, that should give us at least some confidence that it was done right. Okay, so we have to have that. That pipe can't be going through there. I know there's going to be people saying, well, if it's triple wall and all that, you have to look at what the manufacturer calls for. So I know the codes, I hate to use that word, or regulations do change with triple wall, a little bit with B-vent, which is two wall, right? Definitely with single wall, you know, this is a must, but many times these are B-vents anyway. And I've seen manufacturers, even with triple wall, require a through the wall thimble. Okay. Again, we don't know what's in there. You know, we could look at the pipe, but we don't necessarily know what's in there. Okay. So I want to just bring you over to here and just give you some, put this little thing together for you. So look, clearance above the ground, veranda, porch, deck. So we're talking about the outside now, what the clearance, it should be 12 inches minimum or over the snow line. Okay. So if you're in an area that's snow, maybe 3 feet or so, 12 inches to me is a little bit low, but if you're in an area that doesn't get any snow, that's the minimum. Clearance to a window, operable or fixed, or door is 12 inches minimum. Some municipalities recommend 3 feet. As a home inspector, I try to look for 3 feet, but 12 inches is a minimum. Vertical clearance to a ventilated soffit above a termination cap. If soffit exceeds a horizontal distance of 2 feet out over the center line of the termination, is 18 inches minimum. I know they have 12 inches, I believe, for a bathroom vent, but it's a little bit more. It's going to be 18 for this, for a flue. Clearance to unvented soffit is 12 inches. So we get a little bit closer. Obviously, if it's vented, you know, you want it a little further out. The flue should not be installed above a gas meter regulator assembly or within 3 feet horizontally from the center of the regulator. So again, common sense, we don't want that near a gas meter. Clearance to a service regulator outlet is 6 feet. Not gonna have to worry about that too much. Clearance to a non-mechanical air supply inlet into a building or the combustion air inlet to any other appliance is 12 inches. We're seeing that here all the time now. A lot of municipalities are requiring combustion air makeup pipes. And so we want to make sure that's at least a foot away from that for obvious reasons, right? Mechanical air supply inlet, 6 feet. That could also be for heat recovery ventilator. 6 feet. Again, we don't want to be sucking that in, right? Clearance under a veranda, porch, deck, or balcony, at least a foot if it goes under that. So what about going through the living space? A couple of really important things. Fire stops, we may or may not see that. Twist lock connections do not require screws and are not required to secure the joint, but are acceptable provided they do not penetrate the inner wall of the vent pipe. You know, this is something that we do see. So if they're twist lock, they're not required. And I personally, you know, they snap together pretty good. I can't see a good reason to put a screw in there. How would we know as a home inspector if it penetrates that? We probably wouldn't. Would you call it out? Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. All right. So horizontal pipe sections should be supported every 4 feet. Very important. If we look at the picture I showed you previous, that wasn't supported every 4 feet. Okay. Most vents do not require sealant unless specifically required by the manufacturer. Very true. You rarely do see that, but you do. If you see a lot of sealant on that pipe, you know, take a look maybe at the manufacturer's recommendation or installation manual. Love reading those. But if you see a lot of sealant on the pipe, that would give me pause for sure. Okay. So the horizontal run must have an 1/8 inch rise, or I'm sorry, I said 1/8 inch, but it says 1/4 inch rise for every foot. Some manufacturers will recommend an 8 inch, I think, or a 1/8 inch, I should say. But for these, most of them are around a 1/4 inch. Okay, so as long as there's a good rise, we saw the picture I showed you previous to. There was no way there was at a 1/4 inch all the way through. The arrow on the vent cap should be pointing up. Yes, those thimbles and those vent caps, they do have arrows on them. Some of them do, and it should be pointed up. So the vinyl siding standoff, we see this all the time where melted siding prevents excessive heat from potentially warping or melting the siding material is required. You have to have that metal on the outside of that siding. If you see the siding is melting, there's a problem. It should not be happening. Not be happening, right? If the vent passes through any occupied areas above the first floor, including closets and storage space, it must be enclosed. So you have to have a chase around it. The enclosure may be framed and drywalled, plastered with standard construction material, but required clearances to combustibles must be maintained. So how big is that chase? The pipe goes in the center of the chase is around it, right? What does that distance have to be? A manufacturer will tell you. A lot of them are anywhere from 1 inch to 6 inches or so. It depends on the pipe. A triple wall is going to be less of it. The chase could be tighter than a B vent. I would never recommend putting a single wall in a chase going through living space. If you do see that, call that out all day long. Even if it's in the attic space, I would call that. I don't think that's a great idea. Air spaces should not be filled with insulation for obvious reasons. There's combustion with insulation, and it defeats the purpose of the airflow around there. Okay, so if a vent passes through an attic space, an attic insulation shield or a chase enclosure, it must be installed to prevent contact between the flue sections and the insulation or other debris, right? So if we see like a recessed light, it's going to have insulation contact IC. That's different. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the flue pipe. Okay, so if that does go through the attic and through, there should be an attic insulation shield or enclosure around it, a chase or something, and the insulation will be on the outside. But we don't want that anywhere near insulation. I don't care what the insulation is, it shouldn't be anywhere near it. Vaulted ceilings or chase enclosure must be constructed for the flue to pass through. Again, that's going to be a through the wall thimble, and if it's longer, depending on the size of that those structural the rafters, then we may have to may have to have an enclosure for that. Okay, the through the wall thimble should be centered through a square framed opening in the wall or ceiling. Yeah, most of the time that's what it is. It's just a square opening. It doesn't have to be round framed. That would be kind of crazy and probably unnecessary. But so it's usually a square, and then the thimble goes into that square, you know, 2x6s or 2x8s or 2x4s, whatever it is. Okay. So what about if we see something we don't like and we have to report on it? Real simple though. And I think that it's important that we do report on that. That's something we're definitely going to look at. So let's take a look at our report. Pretty simple. In this case, I'm just going to go to heating because that's what it is. And we could put down what it is, what type of heater it is. right? Forced air heat pump, floor or wall heaters. In this case, they would be space heaters, we'll say. We'll pick on them. Or you could have in the interior section, we also have another spot for fireplaces, of course, standalone. And again, serviceable. We're talking about there's an issue with that flue pipe, whether it's not properly pitched or whether it's the wrong type of flue pipe. So we're going to come right over here to flue pipe. Again, the response will be noted just like anything else. Come to flue pipe, and we're going to put that it's either direct vent or chimney vented, whatever it is. If it's going into a chimney or it's direct vent to the outside, we'll make a note of that. Material, if we're using a through-the-wall thimble, it's definitely going to be metal. Mark that complete. And if we have an issue with it, we're going to go all the way down to our most serious column, and we're going to put improper pitch. We saw that on one of the pictures. And then vent flue pipe unsafe clearance should be away from combustible materials. Recommended evaluation. And you could put a note either in other or here, through the wall thimble missing, evidence of damage through the wall thimble, whatever you want to write. Okay, and that's where I would put it. Pretty simple. So I just wanted to give you some ideas on that. We see those all the time. And sometimes there's some question. I've had some inspectors saying, well, if it runs through a closet, well, check with the manufacturer, but it's telling you if there's a chase around it, what size it could be, what type of pipe they should use. But if it goes through the wall or goes through the ceiling and you're in the living space and there's not a through the wall thimble there, or you see it in the attic just freewheeling, going through drywall and near insulation, you got to call that out because that's definitely going to be a problem. So hope this helped a little bit. Cleared some things up for some of you and others probably not. So that's okay. Please subscribe. And we love putting these videos out. We've got lots of training videos out there. I've been doing this for a long time and it's a lot of fun. You can also go to homeinspectortrainingonline.com. Long word, but a lot of information out there too. And till I see you next time, have a great day.